There hasn't been a war like this since the First World War in terms of there being a news blackout. There's virtually nobody covering this war from the front. Do you see anything on the mainstream news? Even on most independent news, there's nobody there reporting from the front. And this has always been the case in previous wars. The last war where this happened was the First World War, where there were no reporters at the front. They were getting all of their information, all of their propaganda from the government, from government censors, who told them virtually every week there was a huge push going on at the front and the Allies were victorious. This went on for 4 years. Well, millions of people died. Millions of soldiers lived in horrendous circumstances, surrounded by mud, filth, the stench of dead bodies, the literal corpses, and rats the size of cats feeding off of the dead. Not to mention sometimes being waist high or at least knee high in water. And what was the outcome of this war? A communist government in Russia, the fall of all of the European monarchs, with the exception of one, and economic disaster, not to mention millions of people killed and incapacitated. And the armaments industry made, in today's dollars, trillions of dollars off of this war. I hate to say it, but this is exactly what's happening in Ukraine right now. This is a disastrous war for Ukrainians. The population of this country has shrunk by 10 million people in the last few years, largely as a result not only of people dying, of military age males dying on the battlefield, but people fleeing the country. This war has to stop. And believe me, it's a lot more complex than the mainstream media is painting it. It's not just about the Russian invasion. The war goes back to 2014 in that part of Ukraine that is disputed, where the people living there are largely Russian. So it's a complex war. It's not simple. And just like the First World War, this is no war for democracy. It's no war to make the world safe for democracy. Ukraine is no democracy, and Volodymyr Zelensky is no democratic president of Ukraine. Now, supposedly there was an assassination attempt on him. I don't know how much of any of this we can believe, because all we're getting is propaganda. So, the Ukrainians are engaged in another big push. Where did you hear that one before? Where have we heard that historically? Ukraine is losing this war, and they're losing big time. In Russia, the more we push this country into a corner, the greater chance of a nuclear confrontation. Every time a NATO country says they're going to independently get involved in this war and attack Russia, they are not only fooling themselves, they are lying to us. Because an attack by one member of NATO is an attack by all, by the very NATO convention. Anybody who knows anything about the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, founded in 1949 for very good reasons to contain Soviet communism, can tell you that the idea of NATO is an attack by one or an attack by all, or an attack upon all, means the entire alliance is engaged. That's what that means. So any country that's a member of NATO, Canada, the United States, and now most countries in Europe will be engaged in that war. And this will be catastrophic. The end will be nuclear confrontation and potentially nuclear oblivion if this continues. We need to end this war in Ukraine. This is the only sane policy. This is the only sane policy, and stop feeding the armaments industry. Stop feeding this war with billions of dollars of armaments. Canada continues to give Ukraine not only billions of dollars of money to buy arms, we're giving them tanks that they've already lost. And we're going to be giving them more tanks. And we can't even sustain our own military forces. But yet we've always got more for Ukraine to keep this war going. The Canadian military is in a sorry state. We are in no position to be loaning out tanks that are inevitably going to be blown away on the battlefield. This is simply throwing away military hardware. They're being blown away on the battlefield. We're not getting these tanks back. We're not getting any of this equipment back. It's being destroyed, has been destroyed in the war. Canada cannot afford to keep going down this path. And I'm telling you, this war every day looks more and more like the First World War, not just in terms of the propaganda and the complete lack of transparency, the complete lack of reporting, but also because it's a war that is intrinsically tied to alliance systems, just like the First World War was. When one country became involved, those countries allied to that country necessarily became involved. It was a domino effect until the whole European continent descended in war, and then the whole world followed through, inevitably, because of alliance systems. And if you're talking about nuclear devastation, I think we should be thinking about a way out of this war now. Because I've been saying this for the last year at least. We are sleepwalking towards nuclear Armageddon, and it's not getting any better. Every week we become closer to an accident, a mistake, to Latvia or Poland or another Western European nation that's a member of NATO, thinking it's going to act independently and interfere or attack Russia, and thinking it's not going to involve the entire NATO alliance. It will. It will. Hi, it's David Krayden here. Thank you so much for subscribing and supporting the station. We could not move forward without you. What we're trying to do every week here is bring you the news you might not see everywhere else. And we're coming against Justin Trudeau's internet censorship laws. Please subscribe, ring that bell if you haven't done so already. I know it's annoying to ask. Believe me, I'm not a salesman. I'm a writer. But I really implore you to do that because I need this station to keep going. We want to keep bringing you the news that you want to hear. And if you want a story covered, let me know, please. Because that's where I'm getting a lot of news information from your tips. So thank you for being there for me. And you can also support this station by going on my Substack and subscribing for $8 a month. Yes, I know it's free, but I can also use your support. So please do that if you can. And I will continue to be here every week, every day if must needs be, to tell you what's really happening in this world of ours. And I'm in nobody's pocket, but I am on your side.